Robin of Locksley, Clint Barton, Oliver Queen. There have been numerous iconic users of a bow and arrow in our pop culture, in our history, and obviously that leads a lot of people to wondering, how can I get this on a D&D table? And today I'm going to do a level 1 through 20 archer build. What is up, everybody? Welcome back to the Geek Pantheon. I am Eric, and today I'm going to revisit a video style that I did a while ago with the Necromancer, a full level 20 build, link up there. That video was a lot of fun to make, but I have learned a lot since I've made that one. So hopefully this one will just be a bit better in terms of format. So today we're going to be talking about building an archer. And obviously, we're not going to be using the Ranger class because we're looking for a purely martial user of a bow and arrow. That is what we're going for here. No magic, no fiddly bits, or anything like that. We're just trying to do somebody that is the best person you could ever encounter with a bow and arrow. And so with that, we're going to get started because that video also it was 40 minutes long. We're going to try to come under that in terms of length. So first and foremost, when we're building an archer, the race that we're going to go with is the wood elf. Makes a lot of sense. You get the bonuses in the right place with a +2 in dexterity and a +1 in wisdom, the ability to hide really easily, and proficiency in both short bows and long bows out of the gate. I kicked around a lot of different ideas, but this one, just from a flavor standpoint and a mechanic standpoint, works too well. So that's what we're going with for the race. And then with the class, surprising probably very few of you, we are going with the fighter class. That's obviously going to give us the biggest bang for our buck in going for a purely martial character using a bow and arrow. But we'll get into the fighting style and the subclass and all of that stuff when we get to it in terms of leveling. And then for our ability scores, we're going with a 10 in strength, a 16 in dexterity, using the 14 from our standard array +2 from our race, then a 13 in constitution, an 8 in intelligence, another 16 in wisdom using the 15 from our standard array +1 for the wood elf sub race, and then a 12 in charisma. Because obviously dexterity is going to be a vital thing for an archer, but also things like perception are going to be really important for being an effective archer, being able to spot enemies. So a high wisdom is also a good thing to have. So we're starting off with 2 16s using the standard array. I wanted to do that instead of point buy or rolling, just keep things as simple as possible and transferable as possible. Most tables that I know of will allow you to use the standard array if you want. They will say roll if you like, or you can use the standard array, point buy, or the standard array. So I'm sticking with the standard array just to make this as universal of an option as possible. And then for our background, we're going to go with Far Traveler just so we can get insight and stealth skill proficiencies. In terms of equipment, I'm not going to go through everything, every option you can take. Long and short of it is we're going to end up with leather armor, a longbow, and 20 arrows. Everything else you can do with what you like. Not important, as long as you have the longbow, 20 arrows, and the leather armor. Now, at first level of fighter, we are going to be taking the skill proficiencies in acrobatics and athletics. Pretty obvious as to why they make the most sense. And then additionally, you also get your fighting style at level 1, and we're going to pick archery. And obviously the reason that we're taking acrobatics and athletics and not perception as a skill proficiency is because we already get it from being an elf. So that's why I know that's on the list of fighter skills that you can take. We already have it. We don't need to worry about it. We also already have insight and stealth. So being mobile, being agile, being able to jump, things like that are pretty important for somebody that's going to be running around with a bow and arrow. So yeah, acrobatics and athletics makes a lot of sense. And then with the archery fighting style, obviously you get a +2 to all the attack rolls that you're making with your bow. which there's not another option worth taking if you're trying to make an archer. Level 2, not much to talk about. You get the action surge ability, so you get that. You can take more actions. You don't really get a choice at this level, so we're just going to keep rolling on. And now, obviously, at level 3, we get to pick our martial archetype. So we're going to go with the Battle Master subclass for the fighter. This is going to get us a lot of really compelling and interesting maneuvers that will allow us to do really cool things with our bow and arrow. First thing to discuss, though, before we get into the maneuvers that you get with the Battle Master, you also get the Student of War class feature at 3rd level with the Battle Master. We're going to take Tinkerer's tools because from a flavor standpoint, I'm thinking more Green Arrow, like Golden Age Green Arrow in the comics, and Hawkeye to a certain extent, where your arrows do things. It's not just that you're adept at firing the arrows in the perfect spot, but you can also tinker with your arrows to make them throw a net out or have a boxing glove on the end. Stuff like that to further reinforce the idea of these maneuvers happening. So that's why I went with Tinkerer's tools for Student of War, is that idea of you tinkering around with your arrows to make something interesting happen, thereby explaining the maneuvers that are happening. Now, I'm not going to get into the full how the maneuvers work for the Battle Master. I'm just going to explain what I'm picking, why I'm picking it, and just a high overview of what it does. So the first maneuver that I'm picking for the Battle Master is the Disarming Strike. So obviously you take your superiority die, you add that to your damage roll, and then the target makes a strength saving throw. If they fail, they drop whatever they're holding. This one, yeah, I mean, you're shooting at their hand, causing them to drop their weapon. This was easily like the first one I spotted was like, yeah, that one is obviously an early one that we need to take. Next up is Distracting Strike, exactly like the Disarming Strike, where you take the superiority die, add it to your damage roll. If the attack hits, then the next person to attack the target other than yourself has advantage on their attack roll because the target is thoroughly distracted by your arrow, whether it's simply that you struck them with a mundane arrow in a really distracting way, like in the thigh. I imagine I would be pretty distracted if somebody shot me in the thigh with an arrow. Or if you want to get more fun green arrow, maybe there's a tiny little flashbang thing that pops when the arrow strikes or something to cause them to be distracted and disoriented for a moment. You can play with it either way. And then lastly, Pushing Attack. This, much like the other ones, take your superiority die, roll it, add that to your attack's damage roll. Then the target needs to make a strength saving throw. If they fail, they are pushed 15 feet away from you. So yeah, this is definitely the boxing glove on the arrow thing of just like knocking somebody back 15 feet. However you want to justify it. I think a fun way to justify it would be, or not justify it, but flavor it, I guess, when you're just describing what's happening and how your attack is pushing somebody back 15 feet, is maybe you're shooting multiple arrows at their feet, making them dance like the Western thing, dance back until your final arrow you pull up and actually pop them and hit them. That might be a fun way to also justify this. Either way, I really like it and think it's fun. And then at level 4, we obviously get our ability score improvement / feats. And if your table doesn't allow feats, then this is going to be feat heavy, unlike the Necromancer one that was very much ability score heavy, because there's not a lot of great feats for spellcasters that are sticking to one theme. So this one's going to be much more feat heavy. So if your table doesn't allow feats, bump up your dexterity and wisdom. And then once you run out of that, probably constitution, unless you want to make a face character, then add some charisma in there. But if your table does allow feats, there's only one choice here, right? I mean, it's the sharpshooter feat. You're making an archer. So when you attack at long range, you don't have disadvantage. You can ignore half and 3/4 cover, and you can take a -5 on your attack roll to add a +10 to damage. If you're building an archer based character, yeah, this is the only option you can take. Now, I do know some tables that do not allow this feat at their table at all. Philip, the GM for Kyber Shards, the actual play here on the channel, doesn't allow it at his table because he thinks it is very overpowered for ranged characters, which is totally fine. If that's the case, then I would just do +2 to your dexterity score, bump up your capacity to hit a little bit more, which the sharpshooter decreases your ability to hit, but you do a lot more damage. But yeah, so just if you can't do sharpshooter at your table, remove this, put in +2 to your dexterity, and then move on to the next level. 5th level, you get extra attack at this level. So you can, when you take the attack action, shoot more. Once again, not a whole lot of choice, much like 2nd level. So moving on. Then at 6th level, you get another ability score increase and or feat. I guess or feat. You don't get both. But anyway, at this level, we're going to be taking the lucky feat. Because yeah, sometimes those iconic archers just inexplicably make the shot against all odds, even when they're not looking. Somehow their arrow always finds purchase. So we're going to go with the lucky feat, where you get the 3 lucky points. You can spend one to roll an additional d20 and pick which one you want to take. Additionally, if you're being attacked, you can spend a lucky point to, or a luck point to roll your own d20 and pick whether or not you use their roll or your roll for the purposes of the attack. So that's an additional thing you can use it for. But in my mind, definitely from a flavor standpoint, it's those impossible shots that somehow they manage to make. Okay, and then at 7th level, we get to pick a couple more combat maneuvers. So we're going to go with trip attack. Obviously, this can either manifest in the form of like a net or just shooting somebody in the ankle. But you take your superiority die, add it to your attack's damage roll. The target has to make a strength saving throw if it's larger or smaller. The same thing with the pushing attack before. I forgot to mention that. But larger, smaller, strength saving throw if they fail. You knock them prone, which is pretty great. And then the other one is maneuvering attack, which is where you get to take your superiority die, add it to your attack's damage roll. And then if it hits, you can pick one friendly creature that can use its reaction to move up to half its movement without provoking any opportunity attacks from the creature that you hit. So with this one, I'm thinking either like, giving somebody cover by firing and allowing them to run across the battlefield, but also to get allies out of sticky situations. If your cleric has a monster run up on it and start attacking it, you can shoot it in such a way to where it like has a brief moment of reacting to being shot that the cleric can make a bolt for it without having to suffer an opportunity attack, which can really get some allies out of really bad situations. So yeah, this is a really good one that I like a lot, and I think thematically fits really well. And then at 7th level, you also get the Know Your Enemy class feature, which allows you to spend a minute observing a creature and you get a lot of additional information about it. Once again, you don't get a choice in this one, so I'm not going to dive too deep into it. This is not a subclass deep dive on the Battle Master. That one will come if you all want it, but this is more a level 1 through 20 build, so we're not going to focus too hard on the things that you don't have a choice in. This is about the choices to make to make a really cool archer. So you get Know Your Enemy. It's a cool ability, scouting based, so it fits with the theme of this subclass and the theme of the archer that we're going for. Oftentimes in these teams, the archer is the one that goes to scout ahead. Legolas, what do your elf eyes see? So that this does make a lot of sense for the build that we're doing, even though we didn't pick it. And then at level 8, we are at another ability score improvement or feat, and we're going with the Piercer feat. So with this one, you can increase your dexterity or strength, but obviously we're doing dexterity by 1, so that gets us up to a 17 dex score. And then additionally, when you deal piercing damage, which your arrows do deal that, you can re-roll one of your damage die, although you must use the new roll you don't get to pick. And then also when you crit with piercing damage, you get to roll an additional damage die beyond just doubling the damage. Then at level 9, you get the Indomitable fighter class feature where you can re-roll saving throws, but you have to use the new roll. Once again, no choice, so scooting right along. At level 10, you get more Battle Master goodness, so we're picking 2 more combat maneuvers. The first one is the bait and switch. So when you start your turn with another creature that's within 5 feet of you who is willing, you can expend one of your superiority die and switch places with that creature. Then you roll your superiority die and add whatever you roll to either you or the creature's AC. So I picked this one for those moments where the archer perhaps gets ran up on by an enemy, and oh, wouldn't you know it, there's somebody much more capable of being frontline fighter right here. So don't mind if I do. And then obviously I would bestow the AC bonus to the person that I just threw into the front line. Since the whole function of this is getting away, you don't want to keep your compatriot worse for wear. So yeah, I picked this one because it has a lot of good utility for an archer type character, and can be a really funny moment at the table of like, oh, you're right here. Okay, cool. You go deal with this. And oh, by the way, here's a bonus to your AC. You're welcome. Bye. So yeah, and then you have the menacing attack, which you expend a superiority die, roll it as part of your attack's damage, and then the creature must make a wisdom saving throw. If it fails, it becomes frightened of you. There's a lot of really cool, inventive ways that you can think up what the arrow is doing. Obviously, going for a more mundane one, maybe you strike a particularly gruesome blow and you break your target's resolve and they become frightened of you. Or you could get funny with it, with a green arrow style of maybe projecting some horrible monstrous creature out of the arrowhead that it looks like this beast is flying at them or something. There's a lot of different things you can do, but they're all fun. And then also at 10th level, you get improved combat superiority, which upgrades your superiority die to D10s. And before we move on, if you are enjoying this video, please give it a thumbs up. It does help out a lot. And subscribe to the channel. We are on the path to 2,000 subscribers. And when we hit that, I'm going to buy one of you a D&D 5th edition book of your choosing. So definitely subscribe down below for a chance to get a free D&D book from me. Also, if you want to talk about this stuff in real time, I do stream on Twitch every Sunday and Tuesday at 8 p.m. Central and Saturday mornings at 8 a.m. We talk D&D a lot over on the channel, so you definitely don't want to miss out on that. Link down below. I would love to have you. Then at level 11, you get another extra attack. So with the attack action, you can attack 3 times. Now I'm really getting visions of Legolas just standing there firing arrow after arrow in rapid succession at all the enemies running at him. So yeah, you're really starting to slide into that archetype. Next feat we take at level 12, because we get another ASI or feat. We're going with another feat, Elven Accuracy. So you get to increase your dexterity score by 1 once again. So now we are at a level 18 dexterity score. So getting our modifier bumped up another one. And then additionally, when you have advantage on dexterity, intelligence, wisdom, or charisma saving throw, you get to re-roll one of the dice once, which for being a ranged character is not a bad thing to have. You could take this one earlier if you want that ability. I like the progression we've had with the feats. I put them in this order for a reason, but this one's definitely pretty potent. So I wouldn't begrudge you if you wanted to take this one earlier. Then at 13th level, your Indomitable class feature upgrades to where you can do it twice per long rest. Yeah. At 14th level, ability score, improvement, or feat. This time, we are not taking a feat. We're just going to do a +2 to our dex to get that up to a score of 20, get us the +5 to our attack rolls, plus our proficiency bonus, obviously, which in conjunction with the sharpshooter feat that we took way back when, now effectively you still get your proficiency bonus on your shots when you're using the sharpshooter feat. You're just removing your dexterity bump from it, which yeah, you're still going to be able to hit a lot, especially if you have advantage with the Elven Accuracy and you're taking the -5 and you basically get to roll 3 times. But you could also use a lucky point to roll a 4th d20. So yeah, you're going to hit a lot and you're going to do a lot of damage with the sharpshooter. And then if you're also using your superiority die, yeah, you can do a lot of stuff and be really devastating. Quick addendum before we get into level 15. I'm not sure if on the Elven Accuracy feat I mentioned that it specifically attack rolls using dexterity, intelligence, wisdom, or charisma. Not any roll that does that. It has to be an attack roll. So I'm not sure if I clarified that. So just in case I didn't. Now at level 15, you get a couple more maneuvers. The first one we're going to do is Ambush, where when you are making a stealth check based off dexterity, or rolling initiative. You can expend a superiority die to roll it and add it to your check, provided you aren't incapacitated. And then also Commander Strike, where when you take the attack action, you can forgo one of your attacks to basically allow one of your allies to perform an attack instead using their reaction. And you get to roll the superiority die and add it to their damage on their attack, providing it hits, obviously. And now we're getting into, much like the maneuvering strike that we took a while back, the commander strike, still that like providing an opening of perhaps an enemy was about to bring their sword down on one of your allies, and you shot them right here in the ribs, causing them to flinch just long enough for your ally to get a quick strike in and maybe take them out. So yeah, even though it's saying that you're foregoing one of your attacks to allow an ally to make an attack, I think especially for a class themed like this, it still makes sense that you're shooting the arrow. You're still firing as part of your maneuver. You're just providing that opening for the ally to make the strike. And then ambush, it makes a lot of sense for a character like this to be able to be very stealthy or very quick on the quick draw. I mean, quick to fire, quick to engage. So that's why the ambush one, I think, makes sense for the theme that we're going for. And then Relentless is also at 15th level. When you roll initiative and you have no superiority die, you get one, which is pretty great. Level 15 is pretty late in the game, but it's nice to still always have at least one superiority die so you can have one trick up your sleeve, which also fits really well with the theme of this that we're going for, of always having that one last trick that you can pull off in any given fight. And then for our ability score increase / feat at level 16, we're going to take the mobile feat. So this increases our speed by 10, which was 35 from being a wood elf. So now we're up to a 45 foot speed. And then additionally, when you use the dash action, you aren't affected by difficult terrain. And when you hit a creature with a melee attack, which obviously isn't our strong suit, but when you manage to land that attack, when you move, you do not provoke opportunity attacks from that creature for the rest of the turn, whether you hit or not, actually. So as long as you swing at them, you can get out of there. So even if you want to use your bow as an improvised weapon to just get them on their heels so you can take off, that's great. But also, one of the equipment options you get is a rapier, which is what I picked for my little build out, which is obviously a finesse weapon. So you can use dexterity. So you would be pretty adept with that weapon. So yeah, you could use it, but this is more of a, oh gosh, got to get out of dodge kind of thing, smack them and run. Then honestly, at this point, we have a pretty easy road ahead to level 20. At level 17, you can do Action Surge twice and Indomitable 3 times. At level 18, your superiority die go from D10s to D12s. At level 19, you get another ability score increase / feat. We're just going to take the +2 to wisdom at this point, get our perception bumped up a little bit. There's not really any more feats that like scream like archer must take. There's obviously a couple that you could take that are just fun feats to have, like if you want to be able to cast a spell here and there or stuff like that. But like I said, we were going for a purely martial character here, so I didn't want to take any of those feats. And then at level 20, you can now attack 4 times instead of only 3 when you take the attack action. So yeah, that is the full level 1 through 20 build of the Battle Master Archer. What did you all think? So I think that from a thematic standpoint, we did a really good job here of creating somebody that can use their bow and arrow for things beyond point and shoot. You can allow allies to move, to get extra attacks, to push allies away from you, to switch places with other people on the battlefield. All these things that you can do and so much more with your bow and arrow. And whether or not you want to flavor that with your Tinkerer's tools as creating specialty arrows that do fun and crazy things,